Well, you made it through the first part of the course. Congratulations. So you were immersed in information and examples related to thinking more scientifically in the practice of education, how that relates a little bit to your overall graduate degree, and hopefully how it's going to relate to you improving your practices as an educator. You read through a very large chunk of the Willingham book that focuses on thinking scientifically as an educator, and you completed the first assessment over the targeted skills for part 1. So for part 2 of the class, you have 3 really important activities to complete, and they all support the overall theme of this particular part of the course. A good way to think more scientifically as educators is to study how scientists, especially social scientists, attempt to solve problems. The direct application of Enlightenment-era scientific method principles is an essential component of positivist research designs that reflect how social scientists typically solve problems. Now, it's important to note here that social scientists or educational researchers also utilize interpretivist models extensively in order to help describe and solve problems. But this week focuses on positivist models. Now, Willingham in this week's reading assignments presents the beginning of an expedited way to study or analyze research designs and how they can be, and how such analyses can be used to help determine whether or not something is of scientific value in educational research. And also this week, you're going to be asked to begin planning your AI-related mixed method research investigation by identifying a problem you really want to think more about, that you really wonder more about. And it's important to note, again, reminding you that as we go through the coming weeks, you're going to be building on this research proposal. Now, I want to say a little bit more right now about the Willingham reading assignment because it's the first step in being able to more carefully analyze the value of scientific research in education. And this week's chapter and reflection asks you to consider 2 different sort of areas of research related to educational claims. And so there's 2 examples. One of them was picked specifically because it aligns really well with what Willingham, sort of his approach. And that has to do with a series of brain games that you could subscribe to online. And you're asked to review some of the claims and some of the scientific sort of support for those claims. And I'll just read to you something on the Lumosity website in terms of the science, and this is a direct quote from the website. There have been over 20 peer-reviewed publications in academic journals using Lumosity games or assessments. In one study, our scientists conducted a randomized trial involving 4,715 participants in order to study whether cognitive performance improves after training with Lumosity. The test group trained with Lumosity while the control group trained using crossword puzzles. Both groups trained 5 days per week for 15 minutes a day. That's definitely an example of a description of positivist types of research. And so you're going to be asked to review and reflect upon that area of research. But I also included a very different research study that I want you to also analyze using Willingham's method. And that is a research study that's investigating a very large claim, a claim about whether or not arts education programs have value. And the research study that you're asked to read and reflect on was conducted by a very well-known arts education researcher. And I just want to reflect for just a moment on the first opening paragraph of that study. The Appalachian Mountains of western North Carolina are aging gracefully. Thousands of years ago, geologists tell us, they possessed the kind of brittle, angular, energetic majesty of the Rockies. But with an infinite patience, nature has rounded their formerly pointed peaks into gentle curves and cushioned them with a lush green canopy. Underneath this blanket of vegetation, one can observe the aging process up close, as the mountain streams etched wrinkles into the face of the earth. The centuries of erosion have worn down this land, but strength and dignity clearly remain. Even at their age, they are still able to lift themselves into the grandeur of the clouds. Somewhere within these ancient hills lives a young man named Donald Forrester. That may not sound like a research report to you, but it is. And the methods that were used by the author and researcher are squarely in the interpretivist camp. And so that's what you're going to be studying next week. That is a story about an arts education teacher and the impact that that teacher has on, well, on a lot of things. You'll read it. So it's very different, and so applying the Willingham sort of model of gauging the value of research, it'll be really interesting to apply it to those two different areas. So that's what you have going on this week. You have notes about positivism and outcomes. I have a video for you that is sort of summarizes some of the important information about positivist methodologies. And I've got a couple of other videos that sort of set the stage better for the whole idea of educational research being within the camp of sociology, and some information more about some of the specific outcomes that you're asked to practice, to learn more about and practice through the course notes. So you've got only one chapter of the Willingham book that you're applying. You have you got the assessment number 2 at the end of this week, and then you have the first part of your project. So all of that information, all the information about these parts are available to you on the Part 2 introduction page, and you should click on the button below to navigate to it, or always know that you can access it from up in the menu on the course. Up on the upper menu. So hope you enjoy this week. I hope you see it as a natural progression from what you accomplished in part 1. And don't forget those due dates.